All right, folks, welcome back to Ninoscorner.tv. Yep, I'm here on a Thursday. Wasn't expecting it, but I talked to United States Secret Service John Carman. There's a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes with the cartels that I feel need to be brought to everyone's attention. I also called General McInerney, man. I really, really respect and trust, and he has told me there's some things that he told me about the 2024 election that I can't get into great detail here on FluffTube, but I can talk about on the back channel on Ninoscorner.tv. But I'm going to bring them both on today, and we're going to discuss this because they both have very valuable information, things we all suspected. But what's surprising me the most is that the cartels are, I don't know if there's a deal being made or what exactly is happening, if they're surrendering. John Carman, who also worked customs, is going to talk to you about this. So there's some things that are happening, these seismic shifts. And if you're wondering why my thumb is blue, it's because I've been drinking that methylene blue. And I'm telling you, I think it works. It's giving me energy. Folks, get your Noble Gold. Here's the hard truth. Every 6 years, your dollar loses half its buying power. That's $100,000 in savings today. It could feel like $50,000 by 2031. But there's a way to protect and preserve your money, and that's gold. Noble Gold Investments makes it easy to own gold and silver. No pressure, no call centers, just honest one-on-one support. Open a qualified account today and get a free 10-ounce silver American flag bar. I got one. They're pretty cool. Go to noblegoldinvestments.com. Noblegoldinvestments.com, folks. Get started. It's well worth your time. So I'm going to bring these gentlemen on. I'm going to bring on John Carman and General McInerney at the same time, knock them both out at the same time. Both very respectable men. As you know, they have a lot of experience and background. So welcome, gentlemen. Thank you for joining me on Ninoscorner.tv. It's always an honor to have either of you on my show. I respect you greatly, both of you both men. So thank you.
Good to be here.
I'm going to start with John Carman. Let's start this first. Okay, man, there's a lot of stuff. You know, I live next to the Santa Teresa airport, and I drive my dune buggy around there. And when I heard El Chapo Jr. and El Mayo were arrested, this was a few months back, maybe 6 months back. Could have been longer. I freaked out because I drive right in that area, right where the planes take off and land. I'm always on the runway, burning rubber on my dune buggy. And when they got arrested there, I was like, oh, this is the beginning of something big. But now, John, when I was talking to you, you're telling me, and this is not, I can't find this anywhere except for one article that you sent me, but you're saying that the cartel's families, the Kingpin families, are now, turning themselves in and surrendering?
Well, the patterns are, and I've suggested this to Trump before, is that they grab Chapo Guzman and work out a deal of some sort because of the knowledge, background, and all this stuff. Because a lot of these cartels work. I know pilots, Robert Tosh Plum Lee. We used to talk about military bases. I've lived on top secret military bases. I was born on a top secret military base. And then we talk about all these things anyway. So I come from a military background before I went to Secret Service. So a lot of these things are connected. But when they bring somebody in like that with the stature and background and worth over $250 billion.
With a B, billion.
Billones, right? So a lot of these people don't get that. That's a lot of power. That may involve, they're allowing stuff to come through. When I got resistance at the border at San Diego District, all the way to Yuma to San Diego, which is also Border Patrol sector or whatever, then when I get resistance, because people at the top are getting paid off, they don't want me looking at tanker trucks. At every level,
they're getting paid off.
Exactly.
When I was a kid and I was crossing stuff, I would pay the guys at the bridge. I mean, it was
military flights coming into Miramar were not showing up. That's a violation. From Panama. Why would they be flying in from Panama to land at Miramar and they don't show up? And then some customs supervisor, well, just come back to the office. I said, no, you need to call the commanding general in the area and the admiral of the 7th Fleet. So there's a lot of military stuff I'm bringing up now because we have General McInerney, so he can cross-check some of the stuff I'm telling. But when you get a situation like that, they didn't necessarily turn themselves in. What they do is they parole them in because they're possibly going to cooperate with the government. being very careful with the words that I use. I've seen people like that at the border. They have a special document. They show it with their passport. I ask them a key question that I'm not really supposed to get into, and they'll confirm it. Oh, yeah, okay, I get it. No problem. Very cooperative. They're with us, okay? When guys like that are cooperating, they need to get them out. So that's what it sounds like they did. They extracted them in a certain way. They even made a comment about having a counter sniper in the area. And I said, really? That's interesting. U.S. Customs has been compromised for many years. They even have 2 female inspectors that are in prison for up to 40 years. And they just arrested 3 more customs officials yesterday or the day before.
Wow. So they're really dropping the hammer. So from my understanding with everybody that I've talked to, and it's also common sense, that there's going to be a period of time. I've heard that a lot of the heads of these gangs, MS-13, Tren de Aragua, the heads of these the organizers of these gangs have been taken down the minute Trump was inaugurated. They went in and started taking these guys down because they knew that they were going to be used for chaos or some kind of civil unrest.
We've been
terrorist attacks. Right.
Invasion.
Right, but so what I'm saying is, so I've heard that a lot of them have been taking down the heads of these groups. There's still a lot of them out there, but the henchmen that were going to be used to create some kind of civil unrest were taken down. But now when you're saying that the families of these the Kingpin cartel families are paroled or surrendering or whatever they're doing, that's something I never thought I'd ever see in my lifetime.
Right. Well, they took down one of the guys who was connected to 𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗁. He was on the loose for over 40 years. Excuse me. I met and knew 𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗁𝗂𝗁𝗂𝘁. He got kidnapped and killed along with his pilot in 1985. Then we had Operation 𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗁𝗂𝗁, where we opened up the trunk, the hood, the doors, 5 different compartments of each vehicle. It was like a work slowdown under Reagan. Now, remember, Reagan also was a victim of a potential assassination, and Poppy Bush was all around that. I'm the guy that interviewed Hinckley in 1976 in front of the White House, which is a weird connection, but it's prophetic. That's the weird part about it. So
with all this stuff falling apart behind the scenes, I mean, I thought there was going to be cartel warfare. I would have bet on that, right? My audience knows that I thought, okay, there's going to be some kind of cartel warfare. I'm here on the border, and what I'm looking at here are military vehicles, armed vehicles that are all over here from Fort Bliss, but all over the border, right? It's all military land.
Let me explain. The cartels run Mexico more than you think. Claudia Sheinbaum, the first female president, is having problems, and the cartels operate freely all along the border, and there's no Mexican military operating necessarily. There's a treaty. I don't know if General McInerney is familiar with the Treaty of Guadalupe-Hidalgo, 1848. And they got mile markers up to certain areas all the way from San Diego to Brownsville. And that means that if we put armed military people at the border, we're allowed to, damn it, then it's a violation, allegedly, of that treaty. I said, no, that's BS. We can have people down there. We got National Guard. I've trained National Guard, Operation Grizzly Bear, Operation Border Ranger, et cetera, et cetera. And they weren't armed except in between or outside the ports of entry where I operate, inside or out, and then they would have people along the border. But that's inconsequential. Trump can do what he wants. We need to protect our people. We need 10,000 people at the border, 3,000 on the first shift, 3,000 to back them up, and another 3,000 to back up in case they make arrests and stuff.
All right, so
I know all the logistics of this stuff, but they don't want me to talk about it.
Let me get to General McInerney right now. And General, I just interviewed a guy, Adam Swart, I think his name was. He's the founder and CEO of Crowds on Demand, where they supply the crowds mainly for the rallies, Democratic protests. They give them a script, they give them a picket sign, and they say, "All right, pat them on the ass, send them out there, and go do your best." So now I've kind of figured out with my audience how they're getting this done. And then what I think they do is they insert someone like Beto O'Rourke, AOC, whatever, 𝗬𝗃𝗃𝗃, butt plug, whatever his name is. They put him in there, and they stoke the crowd, right? But I've figured out now. I've had him on my show, Crowds on Demand, Adam Swart, how they do this. General, what is the plan of attack from here? We're going to go to the Ninoscorner.tv and talk more about what they were planning to do in 2024. But you know for a fact, correct, that they were trying to do the same thing in 2024 that they did in 2020, but they got caught. Am I right in saying that?
My next book with General Vallely, I've got 2 books out called Beyond Treason, and
Okay,
you
there
can
it
get
is.
it on Amazon. And with General Vallely and I as the authors, 2 other people, and Invisible Treason in America, that we write about the details of 2020 and everything else that John was alluding to, although we have not articulated the drug issue. But I think when people understand that Biden let in, I call him Biden, between 10 and 20 million illegals, and the amount of people that died from the drugs overdoses is greater than are killed in action in World War II. And he never said one word to Xi Jinping.
So those would be called soft kills, correct? That's what's called a soft kill?
That's correct.
So
And
it's
that
really,
guy-
it is war. It's not being fought with tanks and bombs, but it's fentanyl, drugs like that.
Correct. And then in addition, I guess just got a report.
Hold on. We can't talk about that on here. We'll talk about that on
Okay.
.tv. That's the one thing we can't talk about on here.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right.
I know my audience is going to get mad. I'm going to get kicked in the nuts for it, but it is what it is. Trying to save my channel.
Well, but the fact is, all these things were together, and what John is talking about, he's got much more visibility on that than I do. My visibility is on other things, and I think you can say that Senator Rand Paul, is 2 days ago announced that Fauci had lied in his testimony to the Congress. I mean, that's public knowledge, and that he should be indicted for it because he was funding gain of function. American dollars going into Wuhan for gain of function. But all this is together with what the druggies are doing, with that huge amount of money. I'm not surprised at all that there are a number of people, border people, that were taking money. I mean, between the cartels and the CCP, they have flooded the United States with dollars, and at all levels. And that's why the political things, I mean, Hunter Biden was not an accident in what he was doing in Red Pine and the money he was getting paid. And it's going to come out, and we'll talk about it more. But let me say, what President Trump is doing now has elevated the presidency in the United States back to the superpower again. There's not a television set in the world that is not viewing what he's doing over in Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, all those places and those ceremonies, and the trillions of dollars that he's bringing back for job creation in America is vital to us. Now, accountability, as we can talk about later on, I think he's doing the exact right thing, because it's going to be stunning to many people, as John is alluding to, as this evidence comes out. And he doesn't want to clog the system up. He wants to get the U.S. economy growing and job creation with long-term jobs. Not what and I happen to be a board member of a company 15 years ago when I retired on a company. We outsourced our productivity to Thailand, and because it was cheaper to do and the margin. Well, all of that was done big time under Biden, and even under Trump. even under Trump. He didn't take that on. He's taking it on now and focusing on job creation in America.
So, General, as a general, are you looking at this being done as watching Trump administration right now? Are you looking at it as this is happening in operational phases? Because what I'm hearing that's going to pop next is the Russia thing, Russiagate, Spygate, the whole thing. Are you looking at this as this could be happening in phases now?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay. Will you be willing to go on? But you also know firsthand, correct? Firsthand knowledge that they were trying to do in 2024 what they did in 2020, correct?
Absolutely.
And are you willing to talk about that on .tv?
I will talk about it to a degree. It's our next book, so I will not go into the details, but be assured that they are absolutely furious that it was done. And it's like the people, you're all familiar with the 2 assassination attempts on President Trump. There've actually been 8.
8?
You haven't heard about 8. They are doing anything they can to try to get rid of him.
Are they still trying right now? Obviously.
Right now. And that's why what you just talked about, the Russian hoax, it's the same group of people. And that's why I believe
would imagine they need to work quick and get these people fast.
Well, General Valley and I wrote a great op-ed on the 51 people that said that Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation. We should indict them right away, because then they were going to have songbirds. We know who the key ones are, but, you know, the lower ones down that just signed are going to say it. And that's how, as John knows, how you get them. Then the songbirds start singing because they don't want to go to the slammer. And
are you confident in 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 taking these people down in the FBI and the DOJ, Pam Bondi? Are you confident in these people?
Yes, very confident.
What's your thought on the Epstein list? Why hasn't the Epstein list come out yet?
Well, I think the Epstein list hasn't come out because it goes on both Republican and Democrat. It even reaches into the Supreme Court.
Oh,
and it reaches into a lot of judiciary and a lot of members of Congress.
So in other words, you pull the ripcord on that, we're not ready for the fallback.
Correct. Don't create a problem that is going to confuse the issue. And it's like JFK and RFK on the assassination attempts on Trump. I'm sorry to say,
right,
but we have in the swamp some very evil people, and they're involved in a lot of other things.
Can I interject on that Secret Service aspect? I've exposed this before, and I've talked about it. And General McInerney is correct with all these threats. They've got threats that they don't tell you about. He's had dozens and dozens and dozens. I've even sent my own information to my former agency at Secret Service about actual threats from certain people. One thing that really upsets me is the fact that they lied about the guy's name that was killed on the AGR building, whose name was 𝗬𝗏𝗏, not Crooks. 𝗬𝗏𝗏 had ear tube things, you know, those gauges. Face is different, and I'm a behavioral analysis and an expert at identification, because I didn't examine 4 or 5 million people at the border for nothing for 15 years.
Right.
So I know the difference on the ears, eyes, lips, and all these other things. But even Dan Bongino testified about Crooks. Chuck Grassley's talking about Crooks. That's a cover-up. I'm telling you right now, if they're covering that up, where is Crooks? They killed the other guy and cremated his body and washed off the roof to get rid of the DNA and the evidence. I know a lot more about that than people understand.
Can we talk about that on .tv though? Because I don't want to go into it too much on here.
No, I just
General, are you going to be okay to go on Ninoscorner.tv and discuss 2024? How, they're really shell shocked right now. They weren't expecting to lose, right? Like, speak about it vaguely on here, but they were not expecting this to happen at all, were they?
No. look, they won the midterms in 2022. And so they were all prepared. And the dear Lord bless. The dear Lord, look, if anybody thinks that bullet that went between Trump's earlobe and his skull was because he turned to look at a view graph, the dear Lord, that was divine providence. There's no question. The dear Lord needs a good, strong, free America. But with the problems, we have 350,000 trafficked kids that are missing. All the evil that's gone on in that trafficking and the deaths due to the drugs and everything there. We are not representing the best in America. Now we are. And the dear Lord sent a leader that I believe will rival George Washington. And the reason I say that, he was indicted 4 times. Think of that. A former president was indicted. They were not being coy on it. And then when they lost on the one indictment on the 13th of July, that's when the 15th of July assassination attempt, and it was done quickly.
Right.
And as John knows, when the
July 13th.
Let's guys, I can we go back to the back channel and talk about this further there, because we're getting into some details that I don't want to put on FluffTube. I'll send you all a Zoom link right now, General, and John, I'll send you a Zoom link, and we'll just finish this discussion there. Is that okay with you?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, because I want to talk about what the next plan of attack is for the Democrats, for the deep state. What are they going to do? So, folks, I'll see you at Ninoscorner.tv. I'll send you a Zoom link to both of you right now, and we'll talk about this in further detail. Thank you guys for coming on so much.